I mean, it's a sort of a bait and switch. They've listed, I think, 50 or 60 organizations. Some of them are American organizations that spend quite a bit of money abroad. For example, the Alliance Defending Freedom. I'm not saying they shouldn't, they just do. And they come to this figure of 100 million that's being spent in the UK on anti-rights activism, which they lump in anti-abortion activism. They lump in anything that's about traditional roles for men and women. And then they say gender critical, which they say, I mean, my goodness, it'd be good if they knew their enemy, really. But what they say is that what we want is for there to be traditional roles for men and women, and that anyone who steps outside those roles is wrong. And if that was the case, then I think we might actually be anti-rights. But I mean, it's literally the opposite of what we are. I mean, it's gender ideology that says that if you act in a feminine way, you must be a woman, and if you act in a masculine way, you must be a man.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we have Amnesty International receiving heavy criticism, and rightly so. And now this organisation appears to be backtracking on its reckless report that it released recently that has defamed several organisations, several women rights organisations and even gay rights organisations. One of those organisations was one set up by J.K. Rowling in Edinburgh, and it has been labelled anti-rights by Amnesty International, according to their report. So Bearer's Place was established in 2022 by the Harry Potter author and other campaigners who claimed it fulfilled an unmet need for women-only support in the city. And this facility was set up to support women who have been through sexual assault, who have been through sexual violence. It's set up to support such women. And we know that throughout the years now, due to gender ideology, there have been rape crisis centres that have been forced or set up to accept men into these facilities, men claiming to be women. So Bearer's Place was set up so that women could have that reassurance that they will have a place where they're going to be surrounded by other women and no men will be allowed to enter into that facility. But that has now been labelled anti-rights. The facility was listed as a gender-critical organisation in a briefing issued last week by Amnesty entitled "A Growing Threat: The Anti-Rights Movement in the UK." And what has happened now is we have trans rights activists sharing this list, this witch hunt. We have news outlets like Pink News writing articles saying that J.K. Rowling is linked to an organisation that has been labelled anti-rights. People sharing this list to name and shame. And the accusations that have been put forth in this report are totally false. There is nothing anti-rights about a facility set up to support women who have been through SA. Nothing anti-rights about that whatsoever. But because this organisation acknowledges that one can only be female, one can only be male, and this is support for women, it's been labelled these terrible things because it doesn't bow to gender ideology, because it doesn't accept men as being women, because it doesn't expose female victims of sexual assault, of rape, to men walking in there dressed as women, to men walking in there exercising their fetish, because it protects women from that. It's been labelled anti-rights. And this is Amnesty International. People have said that they used to support this organisation. There are people saying that they used to work for Amnesty International. They used to campaign for Amnesty International. They used to use their influence to gather more support for Amnesty International. And they are now, appalled that it has gone down the route that it has gone down throughout the years. People like John Cleese, a very prominent actor who is now distancing himself from the organisation because, quite frankly, it is an embarrassment. So Amnesty International, after the backlash, they released this statement saying, "We have temporarily removed this briefing while it undergoes an internal review. Amnesty International UK remains committed to researching and campaigning on human rights issues, incorporating our long-standing and explicit commitment to gender justice, including the rights of women, LGBTQI, and trans people." J.K. Rowling responded, "Translation. Oops. Didn't realise people outside our ideological bubble are this pissed off about the loss of sex-based rights. We remain implacably opposed to any organisation fighting to retain them, but shove in the words rights of women to keep the bigots happy. John Cleese, he said, I was once a major fundraiser for Amnesty, but in those days it was about preventing torture, not about sexual identity. I disowned them. Tracy said, oh, this is priceless. Amnesty, a clown show with the gravitas and respect of a three-ringed circus, bravely has a go at actual human rights charities and organisations and then bottles it. So we had various charities, various organisations saying that they are now being labelled, they are now being defamed, they are now receiving backlash because of this hit list. Safe Schools Alliance, we were labelled alongside J.K. Rowling and Beera's Place in this poorly researched and defamatory hit piece from disgraced former human rights charity Amnesty. Firstly, Amnesty clearly knows nothing about our group as they listed us a gender critical group. We are not. We are a child safeguarding group. If Amnesty feel that standing up for child protection is anti-rights, then we have a lot of questions regarding exactly what rights Amnesty are advocating for. And then J.K. Rowling, speaking of legal action, she said, should any of the women's organisations targeted by Amnesty's UK's recent anti-rights blacklists wish to take legal action, applications can be made to the J.K. Rowling Women's Fund. And J.K. Rowling highlighted some of these TRAs who are using this list in an attempt to name and shame, as if that means anything when you think it's okay to call men women and to give sex changes to children. Shout out to all the trans activists sharing the blacklist of women and gay rights organisations published by Amnesty UK. You're demonstrating very effectively that in spite of their hasty backtrack, it can be easily accessed furthermore, increasing legal liability. Thank you. Apparently, being anti-trans means also being a Christian Nazi, anti-queer. So various organisations have written to Amnesty International, and yes, they began to backtrack quite spectacularly. So J.K. Rowling herself is a survivor of DV. She set up and funded Beera's Place after a row over the management of the Edinburgh Rape Crisis Centre, which at the time was being run by a transgender woman, being run by a man who thinks he's a woman or who's pretending to be a woman. The author said it was important that survivors of abuse had the option of women-centred and women-delivered care. So what has happened with these organisations that we've seen happen to many different types of organisations and different entities is that they have been taken over by trans activists. The people with common sense have fled these organisations, much in the same way John Cleese has recently, distancing himself from Amnesty International UK. Then all that is left are a bunch of lunatics.
That's a long way from where Amnesty was when I was growing up.
I know. I mean, they used to write letters. I mean, I actually collected money from them door to door. I mean, I really wish I hadn't now, but that was about political prisoners and torture. I mean, basically, it shows how when you accept a lie into the heart of your organisation, it turns your organisation upside down. So you can only play this game of saying that somebody is anti-rights if you pretend that men who say they're women are women. That's how you say that, saying that, a man who can't come into women-only spaces, oh, I'm harming his rights. Well, if I call him a woman, then he's a woman who's excluded, or she's a woman who's excluded from women's spaces, and now suddenly I'm anti-rights. The problem is that's just false. The man is a man, not a woman. So you start with the lie, and then it cascades through your entire organisation, and people who see that it's a lie leave, or they stay quiet, and the people who basically are making their living from the lie, like the person who wrote this report. It's the second report like this that she's written. She's on staff at Amnesty. They stay and they get promoted. They do well. Their last chief executive left and was replaced by somebody who clearly believed in the same sort of stuff.
So Beera's Place was listed as a gender critical organisation, one of 117 which it characterised as being part of an anti-rights movement. Absolutely insane. So when you're looking out for the rights of women, when you're looking out for the rights of children, that directly conflict with gender ideology, by the way, you can't have it both ways. You were labelled anti-rights by Amnesty International UK. Is it any different from being labelled transphobic, from being labelled a bigot? That's all this is. But they created a list that was used and weaponized against these organizations, that was used to defame these organizations. So I'm glad that they wrote to Amnesty International. I'm glad that they let their voices be heard, that this is not acceptable. You don't publish a list demonizing organizations that are looking out for the rights of others because they don't bow to gender ideology. And Amnesty International UK is showing that it's doing anything but looking out for the rights of others, that its priority is to cause these organizations to bow to an ideology that they have sold out to a long time ago. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video. And a huge thanks to all of those who have hyped my videos. It is greatly appreciated.